Section 4.3, part 2. This is more with trying to figure out the unit circle. Okay, I introduced the concept of reference angles a little bit, and we're going to work a lot with reference angles in this lesson. Okay, that's going to be a big deal here. So we're going to talk about how to find trig functions of angles based off of those three basic angles. So based off of 30 degrees, 45 degrees, and 60 degrees. So those right there are going to be what we're going to call our reference angles. If you know the sine, cosine, and tangent of 30, 45, and 60 in quadrant 1, you know sine, cosine, tangent of those reference angles in any quadrant. And so that's what we're looking at. So we've got a few basic steps here, and I'm going to lead you through the steps as we go through problems. Step 1 is going to be figure out the reference angle of the given angle. Remember, your reference angle is an angle between what and what? Or an angle less than what? Less than 90. So in other words, it's an angle between 0 and 90. Okay? And it's always based off of the x-axis. It's how far is your angle from the x-axis. Okay? After you figure out your reference angle, we'll have to figure out what quadrant the angle is in, which, if you figured out your reference angle, you should know what quadrant you're in. And then what we're going to do is we're going to write out the answers to the trig function based on the reference angles. So we'll write out, if my reference angle is 30 degrees, we're going to write out sine, cosine, tangent, and the reciprocals of all those. And then the idea will be to put the proper signs on them. If it's in quadrant 4, what's positive, what's negative, so on and so forth. Okay? So that's kind of the idea of the steps we're going to take. And we're going to go full out here with example 1. They ask us to find the 6 trig functions of 315 degrees. And keep in mind, guys, these are non-calculator problems. Okay? Yes, you can do the calculator. It's going to give you decimal answers. That's not going to help. Okay? We need to be able to do these with the idea of knowing that chart. Okay? And going from there. So you might need to be flipping back and forth to your chart today. So, 315 degrees. First job is to figure out the reference angle. As we think about 315 degrees, you're going to get a little picture from me. Where is 315 degrees? Can we all easily agree fourth quadrant? They're starting us off easy. You don't have to think radians yet. Okay. So reference angle. What's my reference angle going to be here?
45.
Why 45?
360.
Okay. This is 360. And your reference angle is how far are we from the x-axis? Yes, I know that's 0, but 0 to 315 does not give me a reference angle. I want to know from 315 up to the x-axis, and in counting that way, it's 360. And so our step 1, so to speak, is that our reference angle is going to be whatever 360 minus 315 is, which I'm being told is 45 degrees. So as we go through this problem, I know we're talking about an angle that is 315 degrees, but our brains are really going to think 45. Okay? Now, we've already discussed it. Actually, I should have put it down here. What quadrant are we in? We are in quadrant 4, yes? Because we are down there, right? What do we know about quadrant 4? Okay. All students take calculus. Now, I'm a little premature on that. We're not quite ready for that in this problem. But, you know, that's the whole point of knowing what quadrant you're in. Is that quadrant is going to tell me what's positive and what's negative. Now, it asked me for 6 trig functions, yes? So step 3 says to write the answers to the trig functions based on the reference angle. So here's what I'm going to do. When we do step 3, we're going to think 45 degrees. We're going to write these out, and I'm going to say 315. But the reference angle is 45, so we're going to think 45. So when I say, what is the sine of 315 degrees? And we'll come back and talk later about positive and negative signs. Okay, so don't worry about positive or negative yet. So when I say, what is the sine of 15 degrees? What I'm really asking you is, what was the sine of 45 degrees? Okay, and where's he getting 1 over square root of 2?
Triangle.
Okay, from the triangle, from your chart. Could you flip back in your notes to your chart and have that? Might be able to do some flipping back and forth. Because here's the deal, guys. I'm not telling you all these values. You're going to have to know them. So you need to be flipping back and becoming familiar with them. Now, he said 1 over square root of 2. What's the other version of that? Square root of 2 over 2. And I'm going to write the square root of 2 over 2 version. I'm not saying the other one's wrong. Okay?
Hold on, I still don't understand where we got that.
Because we're thinking it's.
Go back to your chart.
Oh, we're thinking it's 45.
Right. Think 45. Because 45 is my
Oh,
reference
that makes so
angle.
much more sense. Okay.
Pretty sure I said this already.
No, you
Honestly,
did. I didn't
I was
connect.
so- yeah,
that.
it wasn't working.
Okay, so I'm going back. I'm flipping back. Let's see. What page should we do that on?
4.2 and 4.2.
4.2.
Okay, so it's in 4.2.3. It's in 4.2.2. Okay, so if you flip back to this page here where we did both charts, right? I know it's not ideal to flip back and forth, but you're going to make it happen. Unless, get the chart memorized, and then you don't have to flip back and forth. Okay?
Well, that's pretty hard, right?
So, exactly. This is where the photographic memory comes into play.
Must be
Memorized.
Okay, so sine of 315. So, now I'm going to ask, what is the value of cosine of 315? But what your brains are really thinking, she said 315. Our reference angle is 45, so she really wants to know what's the cosine of 45. Square root
Or
of
1
2.
over square root of 2, right?
Square root of 2 over 2. Okay. And tangent of 315. I say 315, your brain's saying, okay, she wants tangent of 45,
1.
which is 1 according to my chart. Now, said to do all 6, didn't it? So reciprocal function of sine is cosecant.
I keep wanting to do the little things.
So, I know, I just had to erase the theta. So, cosecant of 315 degrees.
Square root of 2.
Okay? It's the reciprocal of, remember they gave me the form 1 over square root of 2 earlier? This was 1 over square root of 2, so reciprocal of 1 over square root of 2 is square root of 2.
I know.
What about the secant of 315 degrees?
Square root of 2.
Same. And what about cotangent of 315 degrees?
1.
1, because reciprocal of tangent is 1. Now, that was writing out the answers to the trig functions based on 45 degrees. Now, the finishing touch is put the proper signs, plus or minus, on each function. Or in other words, make the ones negative that you need to make negative. So what did we already decide? Okay. Agree? What angle, what quadrant were we in here? This is quadrant 4. And quadrant 4 says cosine's positive along with its reciprocal. Everybody else is negative. Okay? So the idea that all students take calculus, and we are down here in cosine. So positive, I'm going to put negatives on sine and cosecant, tangent, and cotangent. And there are my 6 answers. Okay? Now, you put those into your calculator, you're going to get equivalent answers, albeit it'll be decimals, okay? But the idea is when we go to do trig functions of something like 315, okay, that relates to 45. Anything that is 45 degrees from the x-axis, so 315, 45 up here, what is it over here? 135 in quadrant 2, and 225 over here. They're always going to have the same values. You just have to give the appropriate signs, positive or negative. Okay, so anytime you're 45 degrees off the x-axis, these are your numerical answers. Get the right signs on. Okay? Questions? Because what we're going to do in this next section, there's like 6 different problems, and we're really just going through and processing exactly these 4 questions, except we don't have to do all 6 functions. We're just doing one. Okay? So, sine of negative 210 degrees. And here's the deal, guys. If they're giving this to us in this section, these are all going to match up with 30, 45, or 60. Our job, of course, is going to be to figure out which one. So, as you look at sine of negative 210 degrees, well, I know what my brain says about 210 to negative 210. It's close to 180, but it's in the negatives. Can we get it to the positives? What's another name for negative 210? What's a coterminal angle with negative 210?
30.
You're giving me a reference angle. Huh?
That is the reference angle, isn't it?
Yes. 30 is the reference angle. And here's the deal. Can you guys visualize where negative 210 is?
Yeah.
I mean, if you can visualize where negative 210 is, you can go from there. And I wasn't really going to, okay. I'll do a picture here that I'll end up erasing probably, but where does negative 210 go? This is not the way I usually teach this, but we can do it. Goes up there, yes? With the idea that this is negative 180. So that is negative 210. Is that what you guys were trying to do?
I did it the positive one, but.
Okay, well, so your answers are going to be wrong if you do it the
Yeah.
positive way because you're going to have the wrong signs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Here's what I was trying to get you guys to do is I was trying to get you guys to think, okay, if I take negative 210 and we add 360, negative 210 plus 360 is 150. Do you guys know more about 150 than you do negative 210?
Yeah.
That's where I was trying to get you guys to go. Now, when we look at 150, reference angle, where is, okay, 150, we've already talked, it's in quadrant what? 2. And how far is it from the x-axis? 30, because what are you subtracting from? 180. So the other part of this I would do is I would say 180 minus 150 is 30. And 30 is my reference angle. 30 is magically one of those 3 numbers on our chart, right? And so what we're doing on this problem, when it says sine of negative 210, we're asking ourselves, what is the sine of 30 degrees in quadrant 2? So first of all, What is the sine of 30 degrees? 1/2. What do we know about sine in quadrant 2? It's positive. So what is this answer? Positive 1/2. Now, verify yourself. Punch in sine of negative 210 degrees in your calculator, and guess what you're going to get?
A number.
You're going to get 0.5. Okay. There's your check. If you're in the right mode. Okay. You know, that whole issue there. That's what we're doing on all these problems, guys. We're processing through that. That eventually needs to become a very quick process. Okay? Eventually. What'd you do?
I don't know.
Not in the
I-
right mode.
I put it in, I was in degree first, and it still said error.
Probably because you put minus,
Yeah,
not
not
negative.
negative.
Okay. There we go.
Context.
Where am I at on time?
Context.
Man. Okay. So what are you going to have to start doing on B?
Math.
Go farther.
Oh, you can look at the radiant chart.
Oh, 4.
Yeah. This is going to be quadrant 4. Yes? Can you see that? Yeah. And
300 degrees.
5 pi over 3. Remember, we talked about this one actually earlier today, didn't we?
Yeah.
5 pi over 3 is real close to 6 pi over 3, so that puts it in quadrant 4. What is the difference here? I'm going to say the difference is pi over 3, but not disagreeing with 60. And so what are we asking ourselves? Once I did here, I'll write it down, 6 pi over 3 minus 5 pi over 3 gave me pi over 3. So what I'm thinking is, what is the tangent of pi over 3 in quadrant 4? So what's the tangent of 60 in quadrant 4?
Square root of 3. No. Square root of 3.
The tangent of pi over 3 is square root of 3. What do we know about tangent here? It's negative. So this is negative square root of 3. We'll practice these more tomorrow, okay?